Jordan Peterson recently sat down with Dr. Arthur Brooks, a behavioral scientist and professor at Harvard, to discuss the concept of happiness and fulfillment.
Brooks emphasized that happiness is not just about momentary pleasure, but rather about finding enjoyment that is iterable, reciprocal, social, future-oriented, permanent, and stable. He explained that pleasure can be reduced to immediate hedonistic gratification, but that's not a sustainable or desirable goal. Brooks shared his background, from being a professional French horn player to becoming a behavioral scientist, and how he eventually landed on the topic of human happiness. He discussed his PhD in public policy analysis and how he became interested in human behavior, particularly in understanding why people do things that don't have a typical economic rationale.
Brooks and Peterson also discussed the concept of discernment, which involves clarifying one's purpose and meaning in life.
Brooks explained that this process requires engaging the right hemisphere of the brain, which can be uncomfortable and anxiety-provoking. However, it's essential for understanding the why of one's life and figuring out the direction forward. Brooks categorized people into 4 types based on their effect, including the mad scientist profile, which is characterized by high positive and high negative effect. The conversation highlighted the importance of understanding the difference between pleasure and enjoyment, and how discernment is a crucial process for finding meaning and direction in life. Brooks emphasized that happiness is not just about feeling good, but about finding a sense of purpose and fulfillment that is sustainable and desirable. This idea is often referred to as the rum line or el rumbo in Spanish, which is a metaphor for navigation and sailing. It's not about reaching a specific destination, but rather having a direction to move towards, even if you get blown off course. Brooks also discussed the concept of an amorphous uphill goal, which is the idea of setting a goal that is not clearly defined, but rather a direction that we can move towards. This allows us to continue making progress and experiencing a sense of fulfillment without feeling lost or directionless when we reach the top. The conversation also touched on the idea of religious humility, which is the recognition that we don't always know what's good for us, and that our goals and desires may change as we make progress towards them.
Peterson and Brooks also explored the idea of life abundant in eternity, which is not just about life after death, but about the state that exists when you posit an amorphous, indefinite goal as your ultimate goal. This imbues everything local with a kind of global significance, making it life eternal because there's an element of it that's timeless. They also discussed the importance of gratitude, discernment, and conscience in achieving a life of satisfaction and fulfillment. The conversation then shifted to the idea that our cortex evolved to allow us to move from immediate local gratification to long-term future orientation. This means that everything that happens in the present has to be considered in relation to its future consequences. The prefrontal cortex plays a crucial role in this process, allowing us to time travel and manage our emotions. The discussion also touched on the idea that psychopaths don't care about other people, but also don't care about their future selves. Brooks and Peterson also discussed the concept of maturation and how it relates to enjoyment. Peterson argued that many hedonistic and power-mad pathologies are simply sustained immaturity.
Brooks noted that the synaptic development between the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex is not complete in human males until later in life, which may contribute to this phenomenon. However, this behavior can also come at a great cost, including the risk of death or imprisonment. The conversation then turned to the topic of happiness and fulfillment.
Peterson noted that happiness is not just a matter of feeling good, but is also closely tied to a sense of purpose and meaning.
Brooks agreed and noted that true happiness and fulfillment come from living a life of purpose and meaning, rather than just pursuing pleasure and wealth. Brooks then discussed his approach to teaching happiness and fulfillment to his students at Harvard. He noted that he focuses on the importance of discernment, which he defines as the ability to distinguish between what is truly important and what is not. Brooks also emphasized the importance of living a life of purpose and meaning, and notes that this is closely tied to the concept of eudaimonia, or living a good life. The conversation then turned to the topic of work and leisure. Brooks noted that the traditional concept of work-life balance is problematic, as it implies that work and leisure are separate and distinct. Instead, he argued that work and leisure should be integrated, and that people should find meaning and purpose in their work.
Peterson agreed, and noted that the concept of leisure is often misunderstood. He argued that leisure is not just the absence of work, but is instead a state of being that is characterized by a sense of freedom and creativity.
Brooks noted that this concept of leisure is closely tied to the idea of contemplation and learning, and that it is essential for living a life of purpose and meaning. The conversation then shifted to Brooks's life and work at Harvard.
Peterson expressed his admiration for the institution, but noted that it doesn't seem to be firing on all cylinders like it used to.
Brooks agreed, and the two discussed the importance of institutions like Harvard in promoting intellectual freedom and discourse.
Peterson agreed, saying that he's had a positive experience working with them. The two thanked each other and the audience for their time and attention. In conclusion, the conversation between Jordan Peterson and Dr. Arthur Brooks highlighted the importance of discernment, gratitude, and conscience in achieving a life of satisfaction and fulfillment. They emphasized that happiness is not just about feeling good, but about finding a sense of purpose and fulfillment that is sustainable and desirable. The conversation also touched on the idea of religious humility and the importance of living a life of purpose and meaning. Ultimately, the key to happiness and fulfillment is not about reaching a specific destination, but rather about making progress towards our goals and experiencing a sense of purpose and direction. Main learning from video.
Brooks, a behavioral scientist and professor at Harvard, emphasizes that happiness is not just about momentary pleasure, but rather about finding enjoyment that is iterable, reciprocal, social, future-oriented, permanent, and stable. He shares his background and how he became interested in human happiness, and discusses the concept of discernment, which involves clarifying one's purpose and meaning in life. Brooks also talks about the importance of gratitude, conscience, and self-management in achieving a life of satisfaction and fulfillment. The conversation highlights the difference between pleasure and enjoyment, and how discernment is crucial for finding meaning and direction in life. Brooks believes that happiness is not just about feeling good, but about finding a sense of purpose and fulfillment that is sustainable and desirable. The key takeaways from this conversation are the importance of discernment, gratitude, and self-management in achieving happiness, and the need to distinguish between pleasure and enjoyment. By understanding these concepts, we can make choices that align with our true desires and live a life that is authentic and meaningful. To access the complete 21-minute summary and unlock detailed insights for each topic discussed in the video, please subscribe to Quick Podcast Summaries on Spotify and Apple Podcasts with free trial, and later, just for the price of candy in most places. Happy listening.